You ready, Marcia?
Yeah, I am.
Great. All right, welcome everyone. This is Thursday, December 11th, 2025. This is the quarterly meeting of the Wasatch Front Economic Development District. Today, we are starting this meeting with introductions, and then we'll go to the consent agenda. But first, I'm going to have Andrea let the people know who's online. This is Commissioner Gage Furr. I'll be conducting this afternoon. Appreciate your time to be on with us today. Andrew, do you want to take a roll call?
Certainly. Online today we have Marcia White, Jory Johnner, Commissioner Furr, Chris Sloan, Tim Watkins, Chris Reibel, Darren Brush, Dave Mon, Ted Knowlton, Commissioner Raylene Blocker, Mary Catherine Perry, Mayor Debbie Wynn, Jordan Chandler, Bryce Wurtzbaugh, Stephanie Russell, Rochelle Custer, Gwen Curvin, Kent Anderson, Chanel Flores, Byron Head, Kirsten Swinyard, Matt Ryan, and let's see, Madison Aviles, Paul Drake, and Kimberly Rivers.
Great. Thank you for that. So we do have a quorum, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. With having a quorum, I'm going to look for action to approve the minutes that we held on our September 11th, 2025 meeting. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay,
Kirsten.
we have a motion. We have a second. Did you get those down, Andrea?
No,
Second.
sorry. So I think it was Kirsten Swinyard, and I think I missed the second.
Mayor Mon, I think, was the second.
I think Mayor Mon, correct.
Okay, great.
That's how I had it.
Thank you.
Good, appreciate that. So we'll go into the chair's report. So being this is the last committee meeting of 2025, boy, it seems like it went pretty fast, but the year's over. But there are several committee members that will be rotating off our committee. But I want to take this time to acknowledge their services to their communities, to this committee, and all the organizations they're involved with. I'm going to start with Mayor Debbie Wynn is going to rotate off. She's been the vice chair of this committee for the last number of years. Very, very much appreciated her work and efforts. And Debbie, I want to give you a chance to say anything you might want to in parting. You've been a great committee member, a great vice chair. We sure appreciate your efforts.
Commissioner, I just got a text message that she's having a little bit of a sound issue, so we might have to circle back around with her.
Okay, we'll circle back then. Thanks, Marcia. Also, Mayor Katie Bush, Mayor Neil Berube, and Paul Hacking from Tooele Technical College. Since we're not there, we're not going to give them a round of applause, but we're going to give them a thumbs up, and appreciate all their efforts. Any of those people I just introduced, would like to take a minute. Now's your opportunity. I don't see Mayor Berube on here, but okay. With that, let's go to public comments. If they come back online and would like to say a word at the end, we'll let that happen. Any public comment? Any members of the public online? Now's your opportunity to have a couple minutes before the committee.
I don't see anyone with hands raised, Commissioner.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no public comment, we're going to close that. We're going to agenda item 4, which is the Wasatch Choice Regional Transportation Plan. And as many of you know, the WFRC really plays an important role in developing the regional transportation plan. And our own Jory Johnner and Tim Watkins from the WFRC are going to give really some good insight to the regional transportation plan process, how that goes about. And with that, I'm going to turn the time over to Marcia to introduce and give any inside information we may need to know. Marcia, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I think I'm going to start off by saying that this presentation is really important to Wasatch Front Regional Council as we are starting to produce the next round of our regional transportation plan, but it also fits into our community or our comprehensive and economic development strategy. The key strategy is promoting city and town centers. And so I just wanted to show you how we all work together to make sure that both our regional transportation plan is getting done, but also how it fits into economic development. So with that, I just want to quickly remind everyone, I think it will move forward. Hold 1 minute. Let's try it again, one more time. I'll let Jordan go forward here. Is it going forward? There it goes. Go ahead.
There you go.
You can keep going to the next one then. As a reminder, just because I think it's really important to remind everyone that we do have a pretty robust mission where we are continually developing and implementing visions and plans, and that we're looking at transportation systems, livable communities, a strong economy, and a healthy environment. Let's see if it will do it for me. Nope. Just a real quick reminder too, we have two different regions that we service. One is the Association of Governments, which is the larger one there on what would the Wasatch Front Regional Council's left side there. The other one is the Metropolitan Organization boundary, which is Salt Lake, Davis, and a little bit of Weber County. So I just wanted you to know that there's two different boundaries that we service as well. And so sometimes we feel like we're a little bit mixed up here on who we're servicing sometimes, but both Tooele and Morgan also fall within the regional or the rural planning organizations. So I'm going to turn the time over to Tim Watkins, and he can give you a little bit of a background and what we've been doing with Wasatch Choice Vision. So Tim, I think.
All right. Thank you, Marcia, and great to be with all of you. And I am now feel that I'm in full control of the presentation, so thanks for your patience there. And I'll be beginning this presentation with a focus on the land use element within the umbrella of the Wasatch Choice Vision. You see there are three key elements here. In the center is the Regional Transportation Plan, and that is where the adopted plan lives, is in the Wasatch Choice Vision, but it's very informed by and interrelates with land use, regionally significant land use, and then the other element of economic opportunities, the commerce in the region, the job commutes, and the exchange of goods and services. Some of you may have seen this recent video that features some centers that are emerging or well-established and that are at various places in our region across the entire Wasatch Front with our sister agency, Mountain Land Association of Governments. So we'll watch this video for a few minutes and enjoy it.
Utah is growing, and communities across the region have a plan, the Wasatch Choice Vision. This vision preserves what we love about Utah while enhancing our quality of life. One way it's working is through city and town centers, the hearts of our communities, where people can live, work, and play. There are centers in big cities and small towns that suit the unique needs of our communities. Downtown Ogden is the economic, entertainment, and transportation hub of northern Utah. In Clearfield's downtown, older commercial areas now have homes and a new library, efficiently using existing infrastructure. In Bountiful, their Main Street and Town Square serve as the community's gathering place. People enjoy shopping, skating, attending concerts at the band shell, and browsing the park's farmers market in this historic part of town. And many live nearby in townhomes, apartments, condos, and single-family homes.
So we love our Main Street, we love our town square. It's really the heart of our community and where all of our vibrancy comes from.
Mill Creek is a medium-sized city that has brought a mixed-use city center to life.
Before Mill Creek Common, Mill Creek lacked a downtown or a gathering place. So we've reinvented this place, created a center, and we have attractions here for the public, a splash pad for little kids, an ice ribbon and roller skating, And then we brought city services here. Our city hall is here. Our police department is here. It's truly a community gathering spot and a civic center.
Downtown Daybreak in South Jordan has taken off.
The city of South Jordan is proud to be home to the beautiful master plan community of Daybreak, and we are working closely with our partners to create an amazing place that benefits all of our residents here and everyone in the southwest corner of Salt Lake County. We are creating a regional hub where you can live, work, play, dine, shop, and we're trying to make sure it's easy for everyone to get to.
Pleasant Grove's Main Street is core to the city's identity, and they've added an exciting new city park for families. Provo's City Center features stunning plazas, public art, and a welcoming streetscape set amidst revitalized, historic, and new buildings, making it a beautiful place folks want to be.
Year-round residents and college students alike enjoy Provo City Center and its unique entertainment, diversity of cuisine, and shopping. They can get here however they want, whether that's by car, train, bus, bike, or walking. No matter how they get here, they're glad they came.
Centers come in various forms, each tailored to its community. Yet the benefits of centers extend beyond their immediate neighborhoods. Centers help us provide more homes overall. By coordinating with transportation choices, centers make it easier to get to school, shopping, and job opportunities, helping to reduce traffic congestion. Creating ways for growth to occur within these centers also helps conserve open spaces and farms. And homes in centers, on average, use less water, a precious resource, especially in Utah. In short, centers work, and every city can create or enhance a center that its residents love, now and in the future. Together, we have a plan, and it's working. So let's keep going.
All right. Well, I really love that video, and I feel that it really captures the essence of how centers can become the heart of a community or the heart of a neighborhood and achieve so many benefits. As added up, they create significant benefits to local community and to the broader region. All right. Thanks for the help there. And so what you're looking at here is it's a map that you can actually find at wasatchchoice.org. And this is the land use vision update, and it shows the regionally significant land uses that we obtain from each member community, most recently updated in May of this last year, or this current year. And at last year's fall workshops, we received the next round of input to capture the changes that are occurring in communities as they plan and they work to implement these centers. I'm just going to jump into this map. It's kind of fun to go in and explore how to see the changes that occur as communities work towards achieving these centers. So once you get into this map, you can click on the little tool, the slider tool, the lower left. I will turn on the layer of the centers before. And so here we're looking at Salt Lake and Davis County, and this slider shows the before on the right and then the update on the left. So you can zoom in at any point and see some of those changes. And if you really want to do somersaults, you can, but that's not what I intended to do. And anyway, and each of these changes represents a lot of collaboration, a lot of work, and focus between all those who attend workshops representing each community. And collectively, they produce the land use vision within the Wasatch Choice vision. And so the changes occur with size, location, number, or type of center. Was there a question?
Yeah. So Tim, just really quick for this group, it's really important to know that we sat down with, we had 8 different workshops. I don't know how many communities, how many stakeholder groups last year to talk to people about where they're going to see growth, where they're going to see neighborhood centers increase, where they're going to see retail increase, where we're going to maybe have a new development come online. And so all of those questions were asked and hopefully have made it into this map. So it really, as we go forward, if we know different things from this group, as far as maybe if they're going to expand a business or we're going to put a new business park somewhere, that we're really trying to get and keep the most updated map that we can. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Marcia. So I'll spend a little more time talking about the significance of centers in communities in the region and their impact on transportation as we look at integrated land use and transportation planning. I just need a little help getting back to the slides. There we go. Thank you. All right. So across the greater Wasatch Front, in Wasatch Front Regional Council and Mountain Land Association of Government regions, there's never been more interest in the core strategy of strong city and town centers in the Wasatch Choice Vision. In fact, our recent update to the land use vision shows nearly twice as many centers that cities are working to plan and develop. And you can see that especially prevalent in neighborhood center and city centers. And looking at our past, the number of homes in centers has more than doubled over the last 15 years. You can see we've gone up significantly since 2010, 74,000 to 150,000. In fact, 16% of all homes in the Wasatch Choice Vision region are located in centers. And this is often in walkable communities closer to public transportation. And centers, as the video highlighted so nicely, they can help to ease our housing burden. And centers don't need to be everywhere to create significant benefits. They help us get to more destinations with more transportation choices. The video also highlighted, as you can see, these green areas between different types and sizes of centers, that they help to take pressure off of areas that we want to keep as stable single-family residential, take pressure off of surrounding areas that might remain in natural or more rural condition. That's the idea of focused development that takes pressure off of areas we want to conserve. And we estimate that because we collectively coordinate land use growth with transportation across the Wasatch Front, a typical household can get to 360,000 job opportunities within a reasonable or a typical commute. And this number is increasing, even in the face of growth and as roads tend to get slower with growth.
Hey, Tim, can I do a quick interjection on that?
You bet.
For our economic development district people, that is akin to how many potential workers can get to job sites, or how many, customers can reach retail sites. So that sort of ease of getting to destinations is something that we look out for really as a key way of understanding the plan from an economic opportunity kind of lens. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, thank you, Ted. And this graphic is featured on a web resource at wasatchchoice.org/centers, where there are now a number of graphics that depict centers. And one can see here the different transportation choices, the options to live in one center and commute to the other, or to have to live near a center in a residential area and have easy access to nearby services, even shorter vehicle trips, and walk, bike, transit. The options are shown here. And so, but this helps us focus on how to centers can bring more homes and destinations near a transportation network. So hope you've enjoyed the initial focus on the land use and the strategy, the center strategy in the Wasatch Choice Vision. Appreciate all that everyone is doing to make this happen in local places and the region as well.
Great presentation, Tim. Does that conclude your presentation?
It does. Thanks.
And I
Any
think
questions?
No.
we're going to turn the time over to Bert real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, do you got me?
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay, great. Next slide, Jordan. And yeah, I'm going to talk about growth forecasting. I've got one slide. It's got a couple of clicks in it, but so every 4 years, there's a state population committee that works together with the university's Gardner Policy Institute to create household and job forecasts for every year, really far into the future. Their new release looks out to and beyond 2055. So thinking about how many people, households, and jobs we're going to have. And one of WFRC's core transportation planning responsibilities is to take that forecast from the State Population Committee, which is done at the county level, and to allocate future growth and jobs to cities, and then also to an even finer level, what we call transportation analysis zones. There are 3,500 of those up and down the Wasatch Front. So very detailed forecasting effort. We use a tool that we call the real estate market model, which uses a software called Urban Sim, and it actually simulates future real estate development using key local inputs. And I'm just going to walk through some of the things that we use. Includes like existing housing conditions up and down the Wasatch Front, where we have employers and employees, the general plans that cities and counties create and publish, and then also the Wasatch Choice Vision Centers that Tim just mentioned. So all of those are key inputs into simulating where future households and jobs are going to go. We'll have our preliminary forecast to share with cities for review in January, and we'll finalize this forecast later in the spring. And why do we do this? The key reason for us doing this is that having a better sense for where residents will live and where they'll work in the future and what they'll need to do to get around, it's a key ingredient in developing the long-range regional transportation plan. It improves our ability to analyze individual future transportation projects and get at things that are really important, like the amount of road congestion that we'll see in the future and how much transit ridership we'll use. It all starts with knowing where people will live and work in the future. And maybe that's a good segue to Jory, who's going to talk about the regional transportation plan.
Bert,
Thanks, Bert.
do you care if I just do a super quick interjection here? We get a lot of interest in these forecasts from the private sector, from business interests, because it can help in making some decisions like, where might I locate to take advantage of a new transportation idea? Where's the growth going to happen robustly or not so much? And so we do find some people that they latch onto this data to help them with business decisions. And I just wanted to mention that if you find yourself in that perspective for whatever reason, hey, this is all transparent information once it's locked down. So please reach out to us. Thanks. Go ahead, Jory.
I had one more thought along those lines, Ted. This is a key ingredient to our travel model, which forecasts, I mentioned, how many vehicles are going to be on the roads. And that is definitely of interest to a number of different commercial sectors. Knowing how many cars are going to be passing by locations in particular is a key data element and one of our most popular websites that is in part informed by our forecast of where people are going to live and work in the future.
Hey, there's a real quick question that Kent Anderson has.
Yeah, thanks, you guys. And Bert, thank you for this information. No, we've looked at for a while now this data that comes out of Kempsey Gardner that WFRC then uses. And we had been concerned that sometimes the projections were much higher for residential than what our land was available to accommodate. This recently, as you know, we had the Utah Resource and Infrastructure Housing Capacity Analysis that was released by Envision Utah and GoYo. It was HB2 in 2024. Part of that research, they found that applying land as a constraint shows that Davis County is going to be short 47,000 units. That was expected based on projections. Or when you look at for this next model, are you going to use this study or are you going to use other information that KEMC's put together?
All the transportation partners in the state use the KEMC Gardner county level projections as a starting point for their finer grained projections. There have been a number of studies that have looked at this, and really they point to the importance of realizing the Wasatch Choice Centers in the vision, so that that is redevelopment of areas that have an infill are really important to our ability to locate enough housing units for the Gardner Center household projections. And there was a legislative auditor report a couple of years back on a similar topic, and we helped with that. We helped them look at when greenfield development possibilities would run out if it weren't for the infill and the amount of redevelopment that cities are envisioning, especially in these center locations. And our current forecasting horizon is 2055. Jory will talk about that because that's how far the long range transportation plan looks out. We're not having issues finding enough redevelopment opportunities to locate the Gardner Center household and population forecasts in any of the counties. There's more pressure on the existing land for sure, but the thing that holds everything together and makes it so that we don't truly run out of the ability to grow households and population are these redevelopment and infill opportunities.
Yeah, and I don't disagree that there's opportunities with redevelopment, in a community like Davis, that a lot of the developments occurred more recently, not as many redevelopment opportunities. I just think it's important to continue to use land as a constraint. Their recommendations out of this, they also look out to 2055, which I think is consistent with how all the models are being put together. They estimate Salt Lake and Davis County will, unless a significant change happens, they're going to be out of greenfield by 2035. That's why it becomes very important for us to preserve job centers, to continue to go through these planning processes so that we can maximize what remaining land we have available. Their recommendation is to get to what these original projections is that Davis County's greenfield density would have to double from 5 units per acre to 10 units. And I think just realistically, that's not going to happen. So I just think it's important to continue to use, part of this water. We've always been saying, gosh, it's great that we can say we're going to grow this far, but if we don't have the water to support it, how are we going to get there? So I think continuing to use these constraints as part of the models will be important.
Agreed.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Any other questions on vision or growth forecast before I jump into regional transportation and our planning process? All right.
Yeah, I have a question. Chris Roybal, Northern Utah Economic Alliance. I'm kind of jumping back into the town center situation too. Maybe we could have some of the group clarify on the town centers. How are you defining a town center? How big, how small will you go before you define that as a town center? And then, secondly, what kind of data do you have around the town center? Let me tell you why I'm asking. We do, when companies come and look at a site or an industrial park, we'll often do a labor ring analysis on that specific site. And that labor ring data will have, household income, rooftop analysis, that sort of thing. What we don't have in that labor ring analysis is maybe a list of the town centers that would be in that, say, 10-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute ring that a company could look at that might be kind of interesting data. So I'm curious how you are putting those, or what defines a town center? How small do you go, and how much? What kind of real hard data do you have that we could put into our labor ring analysis? Does that make sense?
Ted and Tim, I will lob that to your court.
Sure. They're generally shown here, not graphically. Metro center would be the highest intensity, neighborhood center, the lowest intensity. You're asking about specific definitions of those, and we will be adding specific, or we have specific density ranges on a portion of Wasatch Choice Vision called wasatchchoice.org/centers. And it depicts the typical density range, keeping in mind that many of these are planned. They're in the works, either still a vision and still to be developed, or in early or mid stages of development, some more mature. But the wasatchchoice.org/centers is a great resource to visualize the intensity and diversity of these centers.
Tim, go ahead.
Hi, this is Meg Pageant with the Wasatch Front Regional Council. If I could just add, I think, Tim, you've said this, but it's important to also note these are where the cities have told us they'd like to focus growth. And so there might be specific plans that are adopted in those cities for some of these centers. We do, of course, have the ranges where the cities have said, yes, this is the intensity that we envision this center to be by 2055, right? But anyway, I think it's important to note that this is where the cities have indicated to us they want a center on the map.
I'll make the point that almost all of the data that we work with, we publish on the web at WFRC's open data site, data.wfrc.utah.gov, including these center boundaries. And so if your analysis is looking out to see what is in the neighborhood, our GIS layer of these centers has the level and their name, and of course their location, because it's GIS, and that's something that possibly you could connect to and incorporate into your system and analysis.
And I believe we have definitions as well that we can get to you, Chris. We'll tell you what those are, and intensity versus less intense. So
yeah, I mean, that would be great. I think, if I'm a site selector and I'm looking at a certain industrial park or building, I can see all the demographic data for a certain, labor ring analysis situation, but it might be kind of nice to add what you've done here to say, look, within that 30-minute labor ring analysis, there are 8, town centers that are within that range. But from a cultural standpoint, the companies can say, okay, yeah, I get the demographics, I get the labor, but it's nice to know that there are 3, 5, 10 town centers within that ring that my employees can take advantage of. So anyway, yeah, that would be a nice add-on to what we're doing. So Marcia, I'll probably get with you and make sure we can sync up that data.
Yeah, perfect. There aren't any other questions. Maybe Jory? Better jump in here quick.
All right, let me fast forward. Want to talk to you all about the Regional Transportation Plan, or what we call RTP. The plan is developed every 4 years, working with UDOT, UTA, and all of our local communities, key stakeholders across the region. The plan is multimodal. And as Bert alluded to, we look out to 2055 this go around. The last plan was adopted in May of 2023, and it looked out to 2050. So looking at five more years this go around. And as I mentioned, it's multimodal. So we look at roadways, which range from freeways all the way down to collector roads. We don't have like local subdivision type roads in our plan, the local street network. That's, we leave that to be in the locals master plans or general plans. But above that, we do include projects. We include projects that are new projects, widening projects, how to make roadway projects function better with the current configuration or some minor modifications. On transit side, we have within the plan from the commuter rail or front runner tracks, streetcar, bus rapid transit, which you might be familiar with. That's the OGX or the UVX or the upcoming Mid Valley Express or the MVX. UTA's got a good theme going on naming our BRT lines, down to express or enhanced bus. And I'll talk a little bit more about that kind of down in a few more slides, some of the other categories. And then we also include active transportation. And when we say active transportation, we mean walking and biking facilities. And these can include separated trails like the Denver Rio Grande or the Jordan River Parkway to separated trails along a roadway. So these would be something similar to the Grant Street Promenade or projects down in Salt Lake City, and a few other areas have a separated bike path or a bike walking path, shared use path along a road, to on-street biking facilities, striped bicycle lanes, sharrows, things like that. So that kind of gives you an overview of what the RTP is. We are halfway through the planning process. So as I mentioned, the last plan was adopted in 2023. We are currently developing a preferred scenario, and I'll chat a little bit more on the steps leading up to this, the aspirational brainstorming preferred scenario, and want to spend a little bit of time getting some of your feedback on transportation projects, similar to what we did with the workshops and stakeholder meetings we've met with over the last few months. Next year, we'll be identifying, so the preferred scenario, just to set that table, is a list of projects that are needed by 2055 on all three modes. Next year, we'll be working to identify when those projects are needed by phase, which is also roughly equivalent to by decade. So about a 10-year time frame. Which projects are needed in the first 10, the second 10, and then the last 10 years of that planning cycle out to 2055. And then by May of 2027, we're looking to adopt the regional transportation plan. For aspirational brainstorming, in 2024, we used the existing RTP. We didn't just throw the plan away. We're building off of that plan. And like I made mention, we're extending it 5 more years. We took input from the fall 2024 workshops. You can see some pictures there on the right side. These were maps laid out on tables. We grouped cities together. We did some outreach to key stakeholders, and those key stakeholders include universities and colleges, key landholding groups across the region, which includes like Rio Tinto, LES landholding groups, etc. And then also groups just interested in transportation that are a little bit more organized, like Utahns for Better Transportation. And then there's even some active transportation groups. We met with the Trails Foundation of Northern Utah, Bike Utah, things like that. And we've taken all that input, worked with UDOT, UTA, utilized the WFRC structure to kind of evaluate and review projects. So how we review those projects is a 2-tiered process. Won't go into all the details, but you should know that there was a preliminary screening, which was pretty high level. We looked to see like how plausible the project was. Were there any big concerns? Was it the benefit cost evaluation or kind of the project not really warranted? For instance, we had a few comments of going up and over the Okers for between Twilla and West Jordan, South Jordan area, or through the Okers. Projects like that have been reviewed in the past and weren't really supported, didn't make it through the process, and so we'd screen projects out at that point. Any project that made it through the preliminary screen went through a more technical evaluation where we used our travel demand models. We looked at data like ridership and volumes on roads, our access to opportunity, does it connect to centers, things like that. We do have a new category this go around that you all may be interested in, and we call this exploratory concepts. And these are projects that are that don't meet our evaluation criteria right now, but we recognize that there's future consideration, and we want to keep them we want to keep a list or a map of those kind of on the side burner, say that we want to continue to evaluate, maybe do some further study, and those projects may end up in a future plan. In the past, we have not had this category, so if projects went through the preliminary screening and technical screening and they didn't meet either of those, then they were kind of just pushed to the side. And often, a few years into our planning process, people will ask us, well, hey, what happened to those projects I brought up, or I drew it onto the map? Where is that on the plan? And for some of the projects that, again, that we feel warrant future consideration, we do put that in this exploratory concept. So that's new this go around. We are partnering up very closely with UTA. They're developing a long-range transit plan that meshes very nicely with the WFRC's regional transportation plan. As I mentioned, on the transit side of things, we look at what we're considering enhanced bus up through front runner. So all kind of the bigger modes. The UTA long-range transit plan will also include local bus service. It'll include on-demand service or the VIA service that is already implemented in a few areas across the region. And there's plans for that to be implemented in quite a few other areas across the region. Express bus and other more local type and local bus service. And so more of the local type of smaller service, they're really going into detail within the UTA planning department there and working on that. And then, so what we'll end up having on the transit side of things is we'll have, when you combine the two plans, you'll get the full picture of the entire future transit plan, all the way from a front runner down to a shuttle service or a local bus service. So again, really good working relationship with UTA, and I think our next agenda item is Carlton. So you'll get to hear a bit more about transit and those services. So what I want to do is, and this is at the kind of the discretion of you, Chairman and Marcia, on how much time we have, but we want to review an interactive map with you all. So we'll send this out, and actually I can put this into the chat. Maybe I can. Let's see. Boop, I was queued up. So I can put this into the chat, and what I want to do is have show you at least how to use the interactive map. And so if you click the link or the follow-up we'll send out following this meeting, you can come to this interactive map to make comments on the preferred scenario. Let's pick roadways. You click the roadway, it'll open up a map, and on the right side, you'll be able to leave a comment. And you can see this is the same map that we've been using throughout our workshops as a follow-up tool and our stakeholder meetings. So anything with a little push pin, the yellow push pin, or a line drawn is a comment from somebody. So it's pretty simple to leave a comment. You can grab the button, come over here, push the pin down, put in your name, organization, add your comment. I believe you have 1,000-character limit. You don't need to write us a book. You can just leave us a short comment and we can get back to you and push create. Now, if you really are gung-ho on this, let me discard that change. You can draw in a line project. So it's pretty simple to put your new idea down. If you were supportive of, say, a new freeway across Salt Lake County, you could put that in, put down that information, let us know who you are. We'll follow back up if needed. Now, this is the roadside. As I mentioned, there's the 3 modes you can see on here. Red's new construction, widening is in purple, and operational projects are yellow. Dots are interchanges, crossings, things like that. Also, the ability down here, you can click additional layers if you don't. Oh, this is the type of projects when you click layers. but you can click different base maps. If you're more familiar with aerial maps and you want to see the aerial imagery, you can click that and work on that. Now, to get back to the other two modes, up here in the top right, you click home, and you can do that for transit, which I'll just do a quick orientation on that. Dark blue is front runner. The kind of teal looking colors are bus rapid transit. The I don't know, blue, the regular blue is light rail, and the pink is the enhanced bus service. Same method, you can draw lines, you can put push pin comments. And then for active transportation, the layers on this one are dark lines are separated facilities. So you can see here in Salt Lake County, these are the dark lines over here are along a canal. The light lines are separated facilities, and then I believe the blue lines are in-street projects. Now, as you're looking at all these, you'll notice some dashed lines and solid lines. And in any case, a dashed line is exploratory, and a solid line is the preferred scenario. So just know that that's consistent between each mode. So with that, happy to take some questions, or if you have if you want to chat about a specific project or a certain area across the region. I know this is a little trickier with this group because you know, the committee is made up of members across the whole region. I'm happy to zoom in, take comments, or answer any questions about the regional transportation planning process. So, Commissioner?
Yeah, Jory, great presentation. So one question for you. Do the planning commissions in our regions have access to this? Are they aware of this? I'm hoping they're using it. This is a great plan. As I look at Weber County and what we're looking to expand or extend SR 177, better known as North Legacy, this becomes a great tool that we could take to the public and allow them to have access to this. So it's a lot better than the old days where we just show them a map on the board.
Right. Definitely. So in the fall workshops, we invited the mayors, county commissioners, city council, planning commission, city managers, engineers, economic development directors, and the planners to those meetings. We had really good turnout. I think we had over 350 attendees to those 8 workshops, and it was a variety of representation from each community, and UDOT, UTA, and other partners, some legislative representatives, etc. So they do have access to this. This version of the map, just so we're all on the same page, this is about a 75% version. As you can see, this isn't all of the comments. When we went out to the workshops, we received quite a few comments on paper maps, but you can see there are comments on the interactive map. Our game plan is to go through all of these comments over the next about month and a half, and then we would go out to a public comment period, call it in February, which would have about a 95% refined version of this plan of what's needed by 2055. We wanted to gather your feedback, local communities' feedback, and our partners' feedback prior to take it out to the general public. So, but we'll do something very similar.
That's great. That's a great tool. I know that we'll be using it up here. So any additional questions, or Jory, did you have anything else?
I do not. I'd happy to, if anybody has a specific question about a transportation project, and it looks like Ted wants to add a little bit.
I'm noting the comment by Chris Sloan about Tooele City, and Chris, I'm not sure that I understand your question or comment, but I will note that if anybody looks at this and then they go to Tooele or Morgan County, this kind of gets at a point Marcia made about our geographies. What you're looking at is within the Metropolitan Planning Organization boundary, which we don't get to pick. The federal government picks that boundary. Morgan and Tooele, the planning in those areas similar to this is forthcoming. It's just not ready yet. We collaborate on that, but the point is more held by UDOT. So we would love to share that with you. We'll share that with you, working with UDOT, but we just don't have it ready yet. So I just wanted to make that point. That's under a different geography. It's called the Rural Planning Organizations. We collaborate. UDOT holds the baton. So that's point one. And then the other point I wanted to make is that you don't have to provide comments on the specifics of a solution, as in a project. You could say it's helpful for us to see things even like, hey, this is a key economic development opportunity. I'm not sure that what you've got here does or doesn't contemplate it, right? It can get at considerations or needs. Even it doesn't have to comment on the solutions. I hope that makes sense. Thought I'd share that with you as well.
Good to know. Anyone else?
Yeah, we've got a couple hands up. I think Kent and Commissioner Blocker. So let's start with Kent real quick.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of Commissioner Froer comments about the extension of SR 177 to the north. Jory, is there a separation between corridor preservation and actual project when it comes to prioritization in the RTP?
We do. In this plan, we haven't fully identified corridor preservation, because if a project says in the first phase of our plan, then the corridor preservation would match that same 10-year time frame. Now, if a project's out further, we could put that in a corridor preservation type of project. The project here in Davis County ends currently at State Route 193. I think UDOT's got money. They have money to build it up to 1800 north in kind of West Point area. And then they're going to kick off an environmental study from there up to, I think, 40th South. And then Weber County, UDOT, and WFRC are looking to do a study on this further area, to a corridor study, so that, Weber County can start preserving the correct, a more up-to-date corridor in this area and kind of match up with the Weber plan. So you won't see much corridor preservation in this one right now, partly because we haven't got into when it's phased. And we haven't really identified projects that wouldn't need a project right now, but we should hold the corridor. But, if there's cases where you see that, put them down and just say, future road alignment, but we should be preserving a corridor in this area or something like that.
That's good. I mean, when Weber County had went through their process to identify some preferred alternatives back in 2009, those aren't preferred anymore. They've been all built over. And so I'm a big believer in this investment in corridor preservation to keep costs down long term, but even furthermore, to identify those corridors so cities can plan around the interchanges so they can maximize the economic opportunities around it. So thank you, Jory.
Yep.
Commissioner Blocker.
Yeah, I'm up in Morgan County, so I was just curious, and I know it's probably because we go through UDOT, why maybe that interchange off of 84 into Mountain Green wasn't on the map. There is some corridor preservation there. So it would have been nice if it was on the map so we can make comments right there as well, but I understand that goes through UDOT.
Yeah, Commissioner, the WFRC urban boundary, you can see the line is pretty close here to the mouth of the canyon, of Weber Canyon. And so the UDOT plan, as Ted may mention, so UDOT, there's 4 metropolitan planning organizations in the state. There's one up in Logan, there's Wasatch Front Regional Council, which is from Brigham City down to Bluffdale. Mountainlands Association of Governments does Utah County, and then Dixie MPO does St. George area. Each one of those 4 agencies will develop this plan or a plan similar to this. UDOT will be developing a plan for the rest of the state. So pretty much the donut, right? We're the donut holes kind of across the state. And so as we work to develop the Morgan RPO long range plan, that'll feed into the UDOT plan. Now, all the MPOs and UDOT have some consistencies, and this wraps into the Unified Transportation Plan. We have consistent horizon years, so we're all going out to the same 2055. We're all planning to have new plans developed spring, summer of 2027. So sometime between May and July, each of the agencies will adopt a new plan. We have consistent cost, consistent financial model. We have a technical subcommittee to the unified plan that looks at technical components of each of the plans and make sure that we're lined up. A variety of different things, communication, GIS. Morgan County and, as Ted mentioned, Tooele will be included in the overall unified plan, but just outside of the WFRC area because our metropolitan area ends there. And you can see similar up to the western part of Weber County, or not the west, the eastern part of Weber County, the Ogden Valley area, that will also fall within UDOT's plan. So anything that kind of goes up over Trappers, up down up to Pineview, etc., falls in that area. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, thanks, Tori.
And I know that Mountain Green just finished their environmental study, so I wouldn't be surprised if it moved up in priority to be possibly considered for implementation or funding. Hopefully, cross our fingers.
That'd be great.
Thanks, Jory.
Anyone else, Marcia?
I don't see anybody. No, I don't.
Mayor Mon.
Yeah. So I just wanted to bring this up because we've talked about this for a couple of years, but as we get these ideas of centers and trying to establish these working areas, one of the challenges that I see that seems to continue is as we grow these centers, people are looking for large stretches of land that they can put this on. It's harder to secure those where the development has already occurred. But it seems like transportation is focused on those areas that are already well established. For example, I have not been able for years to get UTA to look off of the I-15 corridor, yet the whole west side of Davis County is starting to grow centers and grow business development. And we've got the new 177, which is going to extend up into Weber County. How do we get this to start accessing these areas? Because I think what Chris brought up, these people want to know that people can get to these jobs if we establish some industrial areas. But if all the mass transportation is on I-15, all this open space that we're developing and helping grow these centers is without service from the mass transit. And I
appreciate that.
Let me throw this in there. I did bring this up at the last several workshop meetings, and UTA tells me, sure, it's on the 2055 timeline. If you grow stuff now and you have to wait 30 years for the transportation, you could end up losing those businesses because they can't get their employees.
Fair comment. I think I'm glad you brought those up during the workshop. This is the regional transportation plan component of that. We'll be working, like I said, very closely with UTA and looking at what the local bus network will work here. I believe there's an planned on-demand service that would capture this area and get people within the area and tie to the front runner station there in Clearfield. And ultimately, a lot of the implementation component comes down to available funding, right? Not just for the capital component, but for operating and maintaining it. And so it's the wait line for transit and the desire. I think, Carlton, you hear about that nonstop. And, I think UTA is doing the best they can. We have state funding sources that go to transit now, which is going to be helpful. We're not only relying on local option sales taxes or federal funding. And I think there is an overall, Mayor, your sentiment is spot on with other parts of the region and other areas that, enhancing our transit system there's a desire for that. So hopefully we can keep moving in that direction.
Jory, I just would add that there's some yet to be imposed potentially at a county level, some additional transit funding, and if that's imposed, expansion of service could certainly be considered.
Can I do one add-on as well? Mayor Mon, this is a great question and a very fair question. The I don't know whether or not either way, the scenario that Jory is sharing, just the line in concept gets at or responds to your comment. So there's the question of, are the lines on the map? And then later there's the question of, when would we expect that line to move forward or get implemented? And if your comment is more the latter, then I'd say stay tuned. We're going to get into the phasing or prioritization question, and a lot of that just sort of is based on conversation and a sense of how communities want to look, how they're looking forward, their timing. We can just have that conversation, and it's not yet. We haven't done that yet. If it's more, the question is like hey, look, the lines are not on the map yet. We'd love to get your comments on that. I'll also just leave it to we can talk and we can chat and meet with you and kind of talk into the details a little bit and take a look at the land use today, the land use forecast as we start to develop that and kind of get a sense of how is it landing when we look at the details. So willing to do that if that's of interest.
So I think what I'm really trying to refer to more than anything is the need for us to take these phases and all these layers that we're talking about in some form of harmony, because as we talk about developing the centers, and that seems to be happening, there's also these other layers. Chris brought up that when people are looking to move into some of these new centers, whether it's an industrial or a retail or commercial center, they're looking at where the people are that will provide the job or that will hold the jobs that these centers provide. But then when we get to the transportation element, if that is out of sync with the rest of it by 20 years, then those things go unsupported. I mean, we've talked about redevelopment in some of these centers where maybe an update to the area had to come and new uses or reuse of old spaces. Well, what led those to fall out of use? In some cases, transportation didn't keep up with the employment opportunities or the business as they grew in. So I guess I'm just really pointing out, and not to be critical, but to try and figure out how do we get these phases closer in harmony with, if we get the transportation to support the growth of the new center on it timely enough that those employers will stay and the businesses will thrive, so that what we've planned and executed is successful. Because we're going through the layers as we talk, but I'm pointing out that we can't be on different timelines, or we're struggling to have that unified plan be successful.
Chris, I think you were waving. I don't know if that was, you were just, waving goodbye or.
Don't even get me started on that. Just wanted to respond really quickly. Ted, I appreciate your explanation regarding my comment. My comment was actually in response to the presenter that said he didn't know if Tooele County was using that information. So that's what that comment was about. But since you bring it up, and you've opened the door, I'm gonna slam it a little bit. I appreciate what you said, and I appreciate the role that UDOT has in this. My problem is, if you want to call it that, both presenters talked about, whether we're talking about centers or we're talking about transportation, you're talking about on that side of the mountain running out of land. And on my side of the mountain, we got a ton of land. We also ship 70% of our workforce to the Wasatch Front every single day on one road. And having spent 4 hours on it in the last 2 days, that isn't getting any better. And I appreciate UDOT. Ironically, that's where Mayor Wynn had to log off and go meet with UDOT. So I'm not suggesting that all of our stuff be thrown into these things. And I'm not speaking for Morgan, but I suspect they feel the same way. But an awareness of the proximity that both of our counties have to these projects, I think it would be of some use to you guys as you plan on that side of the mountain, knowing that you've got 80,000 people sitting over here, and thousands of acres of buildable land, a mini port, rail service, all these economic wonderful things that we've got that are no part of these presentations when people are looking for places to locate. So I'm not saying we need the same depth of dive that I'm seeing on this fantastic information, but awareness that, whether it's Morgan County or Box Elder County or Tooele County, that we are in fact here and that we have some of those amenities to offer.
Great comments.
I appreciate that, and we have the Tooele RPO. We work closely in house with Wayne Benyon, and then fortunately, there's some consistency that Region 2 covers both Salt Lake and Tooele County. So there's hopefully some consistency when we work with Jeff Dupay and the region, that connection between the two counties, and that issue along I-80 has been one for decades, and I know they have, there's been some ideas of a parallel extension of 201, and we had looked at trying to get up and over from Harriman to Tooele, and you guys are unfortunately a little landlocked out there, I think. So I understand, and we'll work closely with the regions on that as well.
A tunnel and a gondola, that's all we need. But the reality is, and I appreciate what Ted had to say, and I know that UDOT works, Region 2 works on both sides. I was more concerned about the end users of this information, not being aware of those relationships. So
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Commissioner Froer, back to you.
Hey, any other comments on hands up, Marcia? We'll move on.
I don't see any.
Great. All right. Hey, great presentations and good information on that regional transportation plan. But we can't talk about transportation without talking about the other big component, which is UTA. And we thought it'd be a great idea to have UTA come and share really some of their successes the last several years. We know, just if you've ridden any of their front runners, et cetera, over the past couple of years, you've seen the ridership is up substantially. But I'd like to hear also about what their economic impact, which has to be big, at least along the Wasatch Front that we're aware of. And we're happy to have with us Trustee Carlton Christensen, who's the chair of UTA. So with that, Carlton, happy to have you. I'm going to turn the time over to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I, in my dubious history, was the first chair of the Economic Development District. So clearly, Commissioner, you've upgraded the superiority of the position. So thank you.
I'm not sure of that, but appreciate it, Carlton.
For having you there.
Trustee, we're seeing your presenter mode, not the slide mode.
Shoot.
There you
go. Does that do it? Sorry about that. My bad. Just as a preface to this, a few years ago when we did our strategic plan, one of the key goals that we wanted to be able to demonstrate was the economic value of transit, not just from a mobility amount of people we carry, but what's the value to the non-user of our system, and to those that say, well, I never use the system, and so what's the value to us? And so a few years ago, as they were completing the Unified Transportation Plan, and there's an economic development component to that, we worked with our study partners, which included WFRC, and helped fund a more extensive understanding of transit and the economic value to the state of Utah. And those numbers were scrutinized quite heavily by the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget and others, because we wanted it to be a study that people could look to and feel like it was independent and it had some integrity to it. And I'm going to chat about a couple elements of that. but our thank you to WFRC who helped do that. I just would point out that this often gets overlooked, but UTA is one of the 50 largest employers in the state of Utah. Next year, we're anticipating just over 3,000 employees, and many of them who live in your community. And so as we look at our particular cost structure, most of it, in addition to federal formula funds, relies heavily on local option sales tax. And then we turn to the state at times looking for capital investment. We still pay a pretty substantial portion of our operating cost to debt service. That debt service was incurred primarily in the build out of rail, both commuter and light rail. And that's a substantial obligation to us and will be until the year 2044. However, we're continuing to invest into our system. This is our 5-year capital budget outlook, and it gives you an idea of where those funds originate from. We pay a substantial amount of funds to replace our what we call our revenue vehicles, the buses or light rail vehicles that are just coming to their end of their useful life. We've been really lucky. Fortunately, lately, we've extended the use of our buses from 12 to 16 years, and we've because of the maintenance effort on that. But we reinvest about half of our capital budget back into our system to maintain it, which is really helpful in the long run. That's been a detriment to many transit agencies around America, that they've faltered and the systems become unsafe, and then they become very expensive to ever manage or do things with it in the future. I pointed out that we wanted one of the goals we wanted to do is to be able to demonstrate that that economic return to every Utahn, and even though we only serve a 6-county area, it is nearly 80% of the state's population, and so looking about how that takes place in that study that I mentioned, we did a lot of interviewing of the business community, and then analysis that followed up on the Unified Transportation Plan. The economic, I'm just going to skip to this slide here. For every dollar that is invested in our system, there's a $5.11 return economically to every Utahn. And the benefit of that comes in a variety of ways. That's a little bit ahead of the national average. Our trade association, APTA, has done some studies. That number's more in the $5 range. And one of the aspects that has a high level of return is the reduction in congestion that happens in our freeways and other things, both in commuting, but also in the movement of transportation. In addition, these are 2023 numbers, and so it's probably something we'll look to update a little bit as the Unified Transportation, but $9.6 billion are generated in goods and services due to time and mileage savings because of transit, and that's an annual contribution to the state economy. 377 million come back in generated tax revenue for the state, and again on that return on investment, for every $5.11 or $1 for every $1, there's a $5.11 return. Dave Mon was commenting about the access to jobs, and we couldn't agree more. And when a number of years ago, when I oversaw economic development for Salt Lake County, one of the difficult things is often economic development looks at sites, and very seldom do they take into transportation until after things are developed and built out. And so, all of a sudden something opens up and they can't get employees to the site, and then they come to us trying to do that. So we welcome your participation in our long range plan and looking at how to improve that. This just gives a sense of the additional where those components come. Ted mentioned earlier the access to opportunity because of transit. It broadens the labor market considerably for employers, and then just other jobs that are created through earnings and spending, and then 10,000 jobs that come from the transportation savings on the investment in transit. Again, we wanted to be able to demonstrate to that person who says, well, I never even take transit, what's the benefit to us? And so what you see that in fewer, a reduction in car expenses, you see it fewer miles traveled on the road, less tax dollars to repair the roads, quicker travel time, and then certainly stress and access to employment. When you look at those efficiencies that come from those, these are some figures that I think are helpful, that for every dollar, there's a $1.27 transportation savings. And one of the things that our Metro Analytics found when they were doing that is that it enhanced the economic value of road investment, because without that, then the congestion would lessen the impact of the return of those roads in that effort, and both in time and efficiency savings. And then, the notion about how do we invest, when you look at one of the reasons our indebtedness got as high as it did, that most of that system was built out at the end of the Great Recession. Their sales tax number calculations were changed, and then but that was one of the three largest construction projects at the time occurring in the Wasatch Front. And there was always an intent to come back with some additional local option sales as the economy returned. Some of that UTA inflicted on ourselves due to some reputational and other challenges. Others, those that committed at the time to come back, never transpired. Other local option sales tax that have been empowered have been watered down a little bit, and the portion that comes directly to transit isn't as large as it once was. And so we have an incredible system, actually, for the dollar amount. It would cost us 3 or 4 times that now to build out. And so the timing was a good timing. And so while we look at the indebtedness, the benefit of that has certainly played itself out, and we got a much more robust system at a much earlier time frame. I don't think anybody would argue that it's sufficient, and we know that there's a need for more. So that's part of the conversations that obviously need to transpire as we go forward. I would also just add the economic value that has come around our stations, and we saw a little bit in the 3D modeling that Wasatch Front shared with us, and so but you'll both on our bus rapid transit system, even on our normal bus lines, and then our light rail station and commuter rail stations, you see a substantial economic return. This just gives you a window of one corridor that was in the Sugar House area, and what has transpired since and continues to grow, bringing along billions of dollars that have added to the property tax base along and to those taxing entities along those corridors. We often don't think about City Creek as a transit-oriented development, but I served on the Salt Lake City Council at the time these were being developed, and it's a substantial structure, the only real large retail development that was built during the Great Recession, and thanks in part to its ownership. But it definitely has changed the makeup of downtown Salt Lake. And then just out my window here and around the WFRC offices, you look at the what has transitioned in the area around their offices. Again, there are opportunities for redevelopment that take place. Obviously, economic development is only one part of the decision making, and we always look at ridership really first and as a key part. But economic development is one of those impacts that certainly is taken into account and becomes a strong factor, especially as we look to federal discretionary funds. And then just welcome any comments or questions you might have. I know you've had a long meeting and want to be respectful of that.
Great presentation, Carlton. Any questions?
Well, thanks for letting me off the hook.
Yeah, wow, they were easy on you.
Yeah.
Carl, just so you know, I appreciate very much what you and your other trustees have done. I mean, just the progress we've seen over the last 15 years. When I was in the legislature, this was first talked about in 2007 and had some great conversations. But if we hadn't, and you hadn't been a major advocate of that back then, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Yeah, you're right. And thank you. I think we, even looking back about 7 years when we started, worked through a lot of challenges, and this year being recognized by our trade association as the best large transit agency in America was a real step of accomplishment, and it's a joint effort. So thank you for your support of transit.
Glad to do it. All right, Marcia, anything else before we move on? Thanks again to all our presenters today.
Nope, Commissioner, I think it's you to take it on home.
Well, great. So just all those that joined us online, I hope that you received the information and be able to pass that on. It was information we can all use as we look forward to this next year, and transportation becomes a big part of what we do for land use, for transportation growth, everything else we see happening in our cities and counties across the Wasatch Front. So appreciate you being here. Everybody have a great New Year. Happy Christmas. Merry Christmas. Just so you know, our next meeting will be held on March 12th, 2026. And for additional information, for those that have asked, we will be sending out minutes, all the information on the presentations today. I believe we'll be sending that out in the next couple of days. Marcia, is that correct?
It might be a little while, maybe a week or so, but yeah,
Okay.
we get them out pretty quickly.
We'll see. You'll see it by the end of the month. Let's do that. All right. If nothing else, we'll stand adjourned. Thanks everybody for being here.
Bye, you guys. Have a great holiday.